All right, KISS Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a KISS-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to KISS FAQ episode number 211. And surprise, surprise, Julian, of course, is not with us. He is away on the KISS Cruise. But guess who's hosting? I am this week. That's right. Marcus Almighty on the board. And of course, joining me this week are my fellow podcasters, Wheeze, Daniel. How you doing?
I'm fine.
That's good. And of course, we have 69th Blizzard, the voice of reason, over in San Francisco. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Good,
Thanks.
good. And joining us shortly should be Lonnie. I believe he's tucked behind a desk still working hard, but should be joining us very shortly. So, what are we going to talk about this week? But before we get started on our topic this week, let's go over a little bit of news that's happening. As we all know, right now, on the wide open seas, we have a big cruise ship sailing out with KISS and many crazed KISS fans. Amongst them is Julian, obviously, and a lot of other people that we know. So first off, we're going to say, hey, Julian, hope you're all doing well out there and enjoying the cruise. And first thing to talk about really quickly is that amazing Sail Away show. Have any of you guys seen any of the clips from the Sail Away show? And what did you think of it?
Yeah, I saw a few clips, right? One with Ace on the Sail Away, which is cool. Bruce Kulick on there. Yeah, it was pretty cool seeing them up there with KISS. I guess even though Ace is technically KISS too, and Bruce, but with the current lineup. So yeah, it was cool seeing them do New York Groove, I know, and 2000 Man, that sort of stuff. And then I saw Bruce Kulick, I think, was it King of the Mountain? Yeah, I saw that one too. So yeah, that's all pretty darn, it's cool stuff. I wish, I was there at that point.
Yeah. Did you see any of it, Daniel?
Yeah, I saw a few of the clips. I think it's just great that they can be on the same stage, everybody, and they seem to have, they seem to get along these days. And of course, I enjoyed the King of the Mountain clip the most because that's one of the songs I've been missing in the set for ages, and I think it's, as you all know, one of my favorite tracks from the non-makeup era. Just a blistering song. It was great to hear it, even though I would have liked to hear it with Paul Stanley in his prime. That would have been awesome, but I guess this will do.
Yeah. Yeah, the set list that they posted from Bruce Kulick's show was fantastic. I mean, when I took a look at it, I was like, wow, I can't wait when there's an actual, I can't wait till there's an actual full, taping of it that appears somewhere. I'd love to see that whole set there. Another thing I think we should talk about really quickly, maybe not appear in as good a light, but we'll see what we think about it, is as we all know, the pre-party happened. As we know, that went over really well. From all accounts, it was a very well attended. Lots of people had a great time there. Julian was talking about it very highly. And one of the things that happened during this event was Vincent performed with 4x during this night. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen the clips, and let's go around the table and impressions of Vincent's first comeback performance on electric guitar. Let's start off with Ken this time.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I saw it, and I don't know, there was a lot left to be, what's the word?
Desired?
Desired, yeah. I guess desired. I guess a big desire. Yeah, it's just the basic songs of, with Cold Gin, I Love It Loud, right? And
Lick It Up.
And Lick It Up, right? And all the basics, songs, first of all. And yeah, I thought Vinnie was supposed to shred on this thing, but pretty much I only really sing a rhythm guitar, or just chugging a little bit. It's nothing special. It was just I was kind of disappointed. I thought he was going to just kind of go off and pull off a solo, just like just like rip into something, but it never happened, which is a little strange to me. I was like, well, what's going on here? And then, when he was tuning the guitar, it didn't look like he could get the guitar tuned. So I don't know. It's yeah, like I said, it was a lot to be left to be desired. And from my standpoint, if I went there and I was expecting to shred, I would have been disappointed with that.
Yeah. Daniel, your thoughts?
Well, we all love Ken. He's such an optimistic guy. But a few weeks back, he was saying what he thought this performance would be like. And I told him back then that you will not be content with what you see. And that's what happened, of course. Vinnie Vincent performed the way he did back in the 90s. He was at a convention tour here in Sweden, and he did the same stuff back then. He played Lick It Up and a few others, and he did it like he did it this time. No solos, nowhere near a solo, just playing the rhythm guitar. And the 3 songs they played this time around, they are not hard songs, I can play the rhythm guitar to all of those tunes, and I'm not even a guitarist. I mean, Cold Gin, it's just the same riff all the way through, and then you have the Gene Simmons parts. It's a very easy song to play. And the same goes for I Love It Loud and Lick It Up. And he seemed to struggle with Cold Gin, at least. I don't think he remembered the song. So I'm really concerned for Vinnie Vincent. I'm really concerned. And I'm not sure what will happen. What's the next thing he's supposed to be?
Is that the Memphis
doing?
I think it's the thing in Memphis, his show, right?
Yeah, I'm really concerned about that one because it can be a real train wreck.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I mean, the thing that I found interesting about it was the fact that, even when he had a chance to jump in and do something even small, he never really did anything except just play rhythm guitar. And the other thing that I found rather interesting was I remember on a podcast, it might have even been maybe I think it was Podcast Rock City. They had the guys who organized the pre-party on, and they had announced at that time that he had agreed to do 2 songs at the time, and one of them was All Hell's Breaking Loose. They said that he was going to do that night, and he didn't play it, and he didn't play that. Instead, it was replaced by Cold Gin, and like Daniel said, I mean, that isn't exactly, anything too hard to pull off. I mean, not to say it's anything terrible. It's a great song. But I mean, most people who know how to play guitar decently well could go up and do it. I mean, when we went to the convention, the Rock and Pod convention at the Jam Nights, lots of people were able to play a lot of these KISS songs on rhythm guitar. It was the lead guitar playing that we were all waiting to see Vinnie come and do. And I'm sure he knew that. I mean, that's the thing that kind of bothers me about it. I'm sure he knew that we were waiting to see him play lead guitar. Nobody was saying, man, I can't wait to see Vinnie play some rhythm guitar tonight, Yeah. I mean, I don't think that was on anybody's list, of things. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that. But you know what? Let's not dwell on the negatives. One more thing before we get into our topic I'm curious about is there's been quite a few interviews of late on television, especially here in North America. I'm not sure what's going on in your neck of the woods, Daniel, as far as interviews for that. But one thing that I noticed that Paul has done in these interviews is, remember, he originally said that they were going to do upwards to 25 songs in the set list. He has now revised this comment in the last couple of interviews that I've seen to saying that they will be doing as high as 20 songs now in their set list, which makes more sense, instead of 25. 25 seemed like a real stretch there. So I think, like I said before in one of the prior episodes that we were on, I mentioned that I thought it was maybe just a slip of the tongue, that he just chose a number like 25 and then now realized that maybe that was a mistake to say and went back to fix it. Any thoughts on him correcting his little slip of the tongue there? Daniel, go ahead first.
Well, I think I'm not sure if they know themselves what to do. I think they have a lot going on. I think they will start off this tour one way, but it will look very different by then. As always, when it comes to KISS, it's very important with the money. So first off, they will be able to play, just the band maybe. But when the interests starts to dwell, I guess they will have to do things differently. And that might be playing a few more songs. It might be adding guest stars, something. But I think I'm not sure that the band knows exactly how this thing will be. They're like testing the waters somewhat, I think.
Yeah, it's very possible, because it seems like the only thing that seems consistent so far in what the interviews have happened is that they're promising the greatest affair in the world, all kinds of explosions, the most this and that. So they're promising everything in the kitchen sink, and the golf clubs as well inside there too. So I think that I hope they won't disappoint us in that sense. But Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, he said 25 originally, and then now he's saying at least 20. So meaning, okay, they're going to do 20, but there's a possibility for some more. And maybe that possibility for some more is only for when there's maybe Ace or Bruce Kulick or whatever maybe shows up for certain shows, and then they will, play those few extra songs that will push them over the 20. I don't know. That's a possibility. I don't know. We'll see what happens at the Vancouver show, I guess. They may start off with the big set and reduce it, or it'd be interesting to see if they change anything in the set list as they go along. If they keep, alternate some songs, maybe 3 songs on an alternate, rotation, or a group of songs. That would be cool. They're saying that's just, they're using the latest technology and everything for this stage show, so they should be able to plug in, have that all programmed. Okay, we're going to use this set list for this night. There's your lighting, your bombs and lasers, all that, programmed. So I think it'll do it. Real quick on that prior topic about the Vinnie Vincent thing, I was going to say, if Daniel's thing, it says if it is a train wreck at that, in Nashville, Memphis, Graceland, I said, well, the one thing they can do is they can summon Elvis from the dead, and summon him, and he'll be the performer. If they can do that instead of if Vinnie fails.
Back on the streets, ho ho ho. But it should be interesting though.
Just a quick thing about the interviews. Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting when Paul talks about the great songs that KISS has written. He only mentions his own songs. I think it's so bad. Can't he throw a bone to Gene at least? Call him Dr. Love. I Love It Loud. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that's. But are we really surprised? That this is typical Paul at his finest, right? But yeah, it is interesting. These interviews. I don't know how many of them you watched, but there are always these kind of tense moments where Paul will say something, all of a sudden Gene will interrupt, and he'll start talking about his always famous line about the more makeup and higher heels than your mother bit. He's been saying that for the last 25 years now. Yeah. But it's interesting when you watch their reactions of how each other talks. Will these guys last 3 years? That's the big question.
That's a good question.
Will they get on each other's nerves by the end of it? Who knows? But yeah, so let's leave that there now. And I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot of this stuff in some of these other bits that we're going to do here. But let's talk about our first segment that we're going to do. And just for you listening out there, today's episode is going to be broken into 2 segments. This first segment is one of those kind of prediction segments where we're going to come up with questions, or I'll come up with questions, and we'll discuss them and give our kind of best knowledge into what we think will happen along with these questions. So before we get started, I do have one thing I want to ask you guys really quickly that has to do with the end of the road tour, because this is our end of the road tour predictions here. I find one thing very interesting, and I'm interested to get your reaction to this. So they've announced the North American dates already. I've also seen that they've posted dates for Australia. I haven't caught if they've released any European dates. Have they or have they not?
Yes, they have.
They have, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that kind of answers my question about that, because I wasn't sure if there were any European dates announced already then. Is there anything in your neck of the woods already there?
Yeah, there's one at the famous Sweden Rock Festival. They're going to headline that one.
Good.
So, but unfortunately, that's the only thing that they seem to be doing here in Sweden. But maybe they'll come back, a year later. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And because I prefer going to a KISS show more than a festival. I'm there for KISS, the KISS fans, and all that.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's start with our first question. So let's compare to, let's say, the 1996 reunion tour. How do you think this tour is going to compare monetarily compared to that tour? Okay, let's start off with Daniel.
I have a question. That's a
Sure.
big word for me. Monetary. What did you say?
How do you think it's going to do money wise? Like, do you think it'll make as much
Cash.
money?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you speak a second language, but some words
Yeah, I do. Slovak.
It's like, like gymnasium.
There's a few holes in the knowledge there. Yeah, but well, I think it will do probably pretty similar in the beginning. I think it will go over quite well. At least I'm hoping, because I see there's somewhat of a buzz going on, and I do know that in Europe, at least here in Scandinavia, there will be huge crowds. I think they will be able to play well over 10,000 people, no problem. And that's why I'm surprised they only are going to play a festival here in Sweden, because we like our KISS here. So. And I think they'll do quite good in America as well. And if they don't, they will probably come up with something to get the numbers up, because they're willing to change stuff, maybe add a few other acts and stuff like that. But by the end of this leg, I'm not sure how long. When are they playing Australia? That's the end of this.
November, I think they said. November. Yeah.
I think it might be hard to continue after that. Much like the reunion tour, it was a great success initially, and it carried on over to Europe. But by the end of '97, when they played like Eastern Europe and countries over here, the numbers started to dwell, and they had to cancel a few shows. It's easy to forget, because you think of the reunion as this great success, but it really wasn't. As early as '97, it started to go down. So I think this will be probably similar in the sense that it will be successful initially, and then the numbers will drop rather quickly. And I have a hard time seeing them playing for 3 years, but we'll see.
Yeah. Ken?
Yeah, well, the question, monetary-wise, first of all, and by the way, if this is an audio version you're listening to, that was not me peeing in the toilet. So that was Daniel pouring in his coffee. Anyway, so the thing is, first of all, I don't think I can compare the reunion with now. I think those shows, the reunion, they sold out. I mean, right? They sold out fast, in the same day kind of thing, Dodger Stadium. I remember I went to San Jose for that, and that sold out, I think, in that one day, maybe 2 days max. But, and I don't see that happening. I mean, I see it selling fast. I noticed Madison Square Garden, someone had posted that it was almost sold out. It looked like it, at least. So from that standpoint, yeah, their tickets are selling fast. But I don't know if it's going to be as fast, again, as the reunion. As for making money, yeah, they're going to make a lot of money. A lot because of the ticket prices. I mean, front row is $1,000, I think. And then the meet and greet packages, of course, and the merchandise and all that stuff. So they stand to make a lot of money. I think they're going to fill the arenas pretty good. If they don't sell out, they'll be pretty packed. So I think they're going to do well. I don't think it's kind of apples oranges to me on the reunion versus this, because it's just different. It's a different thing.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a different. It's not. That was a reunion. They hadn't played together, the original lineup, at least at that time. This is not the original lineup. This is a lineup that's been playing together for, whatever, 18, almost 18 years, I guess. Maybe 16 years. But, so it's just a different thing, and the world's different now, and the whole way you get tickets and all that kind of stuff is all different. So, and they've been around. They've been touring, right? They have been. Here and there, anyway. So I think it's going to be a little slower.
It's interesting, though. I understand the apples and oranges bit, how you're saying that one thing is a bit different than the other. On one hand, though, I kind of see a little bit of similarity in the sense that when the reunion happened, it was something that the people were really clamoring for. They wanted to see the original members. They wanted to see the makeup back. So it was a big thing. It sold out fast, like you said, bam, bam, bam. Now, if what we believe is true, that this is the last tour that they're going to be doing now, then there's also that kind of feeling amongst a segment of people that are saying, okay, well, it's now or never. So there's that kind of that vibe within now there. What I do notice, though, online, though, and now this is not the majority, but you still get that small little pocket of people that are still questioning whether this is going to be their last thing, believe it or not. I still see it here and there. I believe it's going to be the last thing. I mean, I really do. But it's funny that there's still that little segment of people who still question it, And I think what's different, too, is because of the fact that, like you said, they've been touring for so many years now, nonstop pretty much. I think the anticipation to get tickets is not as urgent as it was in the reunion tour, right? So I think like by now, like you said, in the reunion tour, Madison Square Garden sold 4 nights out, like I think in like 2 days. Like all of them were pretty much gone in like record time. And now the fact that Madison Square Garden is not sold out yet is a little bit telling, right? I mean, who knows what that could be? For all we know, maybe if they add another a good opening band or maybe another band with them, the numbers might skyrocket and go up even further, which is interesting that they still haven't really even announced anybody touring with them, too. That's another thing you have to keep in mind. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to happen and whether Daniel's prediction will be true, that as time goes on, the numbers might dwindle and it might become harder and harder to keep this thing on the road. So let's go on to our next question. Now, what I'm curious about here is, what do you think the press reaction is going to be to the tour as it goes on? Do you think they'll be getting favorable reviews for this tour, or do you think this is going to be just one of these things where they're just going to be like, 2-minute segment, then just on to the next thing? Let's start with Ken this time.
Okay. If the show has changed a lot and they've done a lot of different things to the stage, I mean, redesigned or designed, I guess, a brand new stage that's very functional, does a lot of things, more explosions, more fire, more, the lasers, I guess. If they change it up and do other things too that we don't know or not going to expect, that's very cool. It could, I think they'll get some good reviews. Plus the fact that if they use some of the backing tracks, for Paul's lead singing, maybe. But you know what? Saying that. That cruise, when he was singing Hide Your Heart, he seemed to be handling that pretty well, and that's not a backing track. So I guess there's a possibility his voice has been, or his vocal cords, maybe they did something. I don't know. Or it's just the rest that he's had. And doing 3 nights in a row is going to wreck it, something like that. Because I know he's going to do 3 nights in a row in California. And I'm on the 3rd night of that 3 nights.
Oh, boy.
And so I'm kind of worried about that. So we'll see how what happens there. Whether we'll know. I guess we'll know after the first few shows and what's going on there. But I think they may get pretty decent reviews if the sound's good and all the show is just to go out with a bang. Otherwise, if they don't and the stage stinks and does not really changed much from the prior, then it may get some lackluster reviews.
I'm curious, Daniel, what you think about this, because sometimes I find that the media is a bit different over in your neck of the woods than it is over here. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I think at this point, I remember last time they played Sweden Rock, they got pretty bad reviews, mostly because of, Paul singing. They were over here with the Spider stage. I don't remember the year.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's not very common, because most of the time they have been receiving good reviews over here, and mostly because at this point they are respected veterans. With all the, the singing isn't what it was. The movement is less by the band members and so on. But I think the journalists over here kind of pay respect to the band somewhat. They see everything that the band has done for rock music and rock history, and they take that into account. Mm-hmm. So I think they will get decent reviews over here. Maybe not 5 out of 5 that they got when they were here on the reunion tour. Then the media was just like blown. It was like they were witnessing a moon landing or something. And they got great reviews everywhere. And but I think they get decent reviews. Not 5, maybe 3.5 stars out of 5. And also the reviews will include some kind of homage to the band. And so it will be positive reviews, I think. Positive, yeah.
Great. It's interesting over here in Canada, at least. They've been on quite a few different, news outlets, and they've also been broadcasting some of the American stuff, like the Good Morning America kind of stuff over here. And it's interesting because, similar to what Daniel was saying, I've noticed that they've been kind of focusing on, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee KISS now. You know what I mean? Before, it used to be just, KISS, and they didn't really... It seems like the respect level has gone up now that they've become Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members now, which is very interesting because I think once that happens, they give them a little bit more slack, I find. They don't have as much negative to talk about, or they don't really poke the bear as much because of that, I find. I find that respect level is now at that point where they kind of let a little bit more things slide, because never once, and I'm sure that they were told not to talk about that, but never once did they mention anything about Paul's voice in any of these interviews at all. And most journalists, I would suspect, would have maybe thought in the back of their mind to say, you've had some trouble before, Paul, with your voice. How do you think 3 years is going to be on your voice? But not a single peep about that from anybody. So I think that they're kind of trying to keep that on the down low. And I think that they're going to get decent reviews. I mean, as long as the show turns out okay and people walk out of there with a smile and, have great things to say, I think the reviews will be good. So, yeah, interesting. I'm very interested with your comments there. That was good, guys. I like that. So next, here's another question I'm curious about. As we know, when KISS goes on these kind of really big kind of tours, like when they went on the reunion tour, something similar happened. Well, we're going to see if something similar happened, but what kind of products do you think KISS will release during this tour? Do you think that they will release another compilation, for example, during this tour to help promote this thing again? I mean, you know how this kind of thing is bound to happen, or something that'll be associated with this end of the road tour. What do you think will happen from that end of it for this tour? Let's try Daniel.
Okay, I think at least we'll get something like the Las Vegas experience, a DVD and a CD, something like that. But I'm hoping for more. But I guess I'm not sure we'll get much more than that. But what I'm hoping for is some sort of continuation of the Kissology series that ended kind of abruptly, because I think they were doing some good stuff, but I guess it's 10 years ago by now. But releasing old footage, they could do that, and they could include commentary. And by this time, when they have become friends with the old band members, at least Ace and Bruce, and to a lesser extent Vinnie and Peter, they could include those guys as well, and have like a sit down, like most old TV shows from America do, like Seinfeld or even famous films like Goodfellas and stuff like that. Just have them sitting around a table and reminiscent of what do you say?
Reminiscent.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think that would be easily done, and Gene seems to have got closer to the old band members, so I don't think that's an impossibility. So I'm really hoping for something like that. Yeah, that would be a nice end of things, seeing them together talking about old stuff, having a good time.
Great. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I like Daniel's idea. I usually don't, but I like it. No, not really. No, I do. I like the idea of the Kissology kind of thing. Maybe that rumored Kissology. Boy, it would be great if they got the Kissology 4, or this called Kissology whatever. But the Kissology collection, maybe they call it. So they have the first 3, in there. And then they have 4, or the newer stuff on there too, plus anything else that they've come up with. Plus, in this big box, they put the documentary. They finally released this documentary in there, which would be a great way for people, other new fans could learn the history, because the history is not there in Kissology. It's kind of you can see some of the history, but there's nothing in real good documentary other than a Cadillac, kind of Cadillac High thing and stuff. But a proper documentary in there would be great. And I agree with Daniel, and maybe an additional, hour of them sitting around, the living members, former members, sitting around talking about certain weird, subjects of the certain times and highlights of their career. I think that would be, I'd buy that like that, that'd be awesome to do. And now the other thing that Daniel said about, the Kiss Rocks Vegas thing, I think they'll save that for the end of the year. They'll record stuff, the best stuff for during the whole year, and then release it at the November, Christmas time, whatever. To put the concert, the tour on there for fans to buy. So that's my thinking, but who knows? Interesting.
I mean, I think those are all very probable. I think that unfortunately there are probably going to be another one of these compilations coming out. It never fails. I mean, at the very least, the record label will want to capitalize on this last big swing of momentum. Another thing that I was hoping that will happen, mainly because now that we have new costumes, is maybe we're going to get a new set of dolls with these new costumes now. Maybe they're going to come out with a new set of them because, the costumes have changed. They're not radically different, but they are different enough that it might warrant to make a new set of dolls. And I know people like Andrew Scambatti, who is a big collector of these sorts of things, would be probably jumping for joy if he, heard that there was a new set of these things coming out. So, there are a lot of collectors out there too, and I'm sure that people like Gene, who are, businessmen looking on the dollar all the time, could probably realize that maybe it might make sense to do something like that, and maybe put out a new kind of KISS magazine. Remember when they did the reunion tour, they had that special edition magazine that came out at that point, where they can maybe do another one of that as well to come out. So I think that's a good possibility that those things might happen. So again, good answers, my friends. Let's go on to the next question, and the final one from this segment, then we're going to move on to the other segment. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I am curious to hear more your thoughts on this. Is during this end of the road tour, which guests do you think will make an appearance during this tour? Now, we have seen Ace and Bruce on the cruise, but that doesn't necessarily mean they might make it on the tour. What are your gut feelings on who will appear during this tour? So let's start with Ken this time. What's your gut feeling?
Okay, my gut feeling is that yes, Ace and Bruce will pop up in random shows here and there, depending on location, logistics, where they are at the time. Though Ace doesn't have any scheduled dates either, so I kind of wonder, will they bring them along? I'd like to see them at every show. I would just love to see them included at every show somehow, fit them in. That would be great for a couple songs here or there. But I'm just hoping it happens even a few shows, and it'd be nice just see it happen. As for Peter Criss, Vinnie, that's not going to happen. As for Peter Criss, I can see Peter Criss maybe maybe Madison Square Garden. I bet you they'll be able to get him out there to do Beth at the end of the show for Madison Square Garden. I'd put a high percentage bet on that one. I'll put some money down on that one. So, I think it can happen. Again, I'd love for it to see it happen every show, but I don't know. I don't see it. I don't think that's a possibility.
So, Daniel, what do you think?
Well, I think Ken is right on the money. I agree 100%. But except if you take into account the opening acts, we'll see you might get a few other guest appearances from important rock and roll personas. Because by the start of the tour, I think they will have like a pretty cheap opening act. Not very well known, of course. And then when they will have problems moving tickets, they might add a better opening act, a more famous one. And I'm really hoping for, like Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper would be a great one. Judas Priest would be even better, but they might afford to have Cooper on the show, and then he would make guest appearances. Much like Joe Perry did when they played with Aerosmith and that guitarist from Def Leppard. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, Julian, but
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins. Yeah.
I know Julian is a big Def Leppard fan. They are also playing Sweden Rock Festival this year, so. By the way, So I'm hoping for Ace, Bruce on the no-brainers. Hopefully Peter Criss. I don't see Vinnie doing a show, and hopefully Alice Cooper or a few other rock and roll icons. That would be great.
Great. Yeah, I think you guys are pretty much right. I mean, I think that Ken pretty much took my thought out of my head and put it into his own as far as everything. I think Ace is going to be pretty much the one figure that'll be there consistently, because I think that, like you said, there's not much on his schedule right now as far as touring for Ace. So he has the availability. I'm not familiar with Grand Funk Railroad's touring schedule, so I don't know how available Bruce would be, but he would definitely appear. I think there's no question about it. And I think you're right on the money about Peter Criss. We won't see him at all, except probably for New York, and they'll pull him out for something like that. Maybe one other song. But I think the money is on Beth, that he'll come out and do that.
Right.
And that'll be a big, huge highlight of that show. So I think that's a very wise thinking amongst us. So good answers, my friend. So let's move over to segment 2. Now, this is a little bit more of a personalized thing, which I'm very curious to get your answers on, which is what I call, what does KISS mean to you? Okay, so let's start with a question like this. And we'll start with Daniel first. Do you remember the very first KISS album you bought, and what was it?
Of course. I've said this a few times before, but for me it was... I was in a tent in the backyard at a friend's house, and we had like this boom box, and he had a black cassette tape. He had, it wasn't the original even. He had, tape, made a copy of the original. And I remember he putting it on, and the first song that popped out of the speakers was Heaven's on Fire. And since that day, I guess I was maybe 9 years old, I was hooked. So I went ahead, and eventually I understood that the band was called KISS, and I told my mom, I need some KISS music. So at that point, Asylum had been released, but I really wanted Heaven's on Fire. So she helped me, and I got Animalize and Asylum at the same time as cassettes. And I remember playing those tapes over and over again, and to this day some of the songs from those albums are my favorites. So that was the beginning for me.
Very nice. Ken, what about you?
Yeah, I like Daniel. I've told my story here too on some episodes, but it was Alive 2. Shortly after, I guess earlier in that year, a friend of mine showed me, played some Rock and Roll Over for me. And I was like, oh, this is pretty dang good. And I was like, oh, I like this. So I didn't go out and buy it right away, or that album, but I waited until Alive 2 came out, because it had like stuff from the following album, Love Gun, and Christine 16, Calling Dr. Love, it had a bunch of other stuff. So it was like a greatest hits live kind of thing to me, in a way, to a degree. I mean, I didn't know much about KISS at the time, but yeah, that was the one. I mean, I really remember everything about going down and buying it and bringing it home, and the whole bit. I absolutely remember that moment. So that's the first album that started it all for me.
Very interesting, because I remember my first album that I actually got, and I think I mentioned this too on an episode, was I got Alive 1, like Alive, for Christmas from my sister. Now, that wasn't the first one that I actually bought myself. And I had to really think back to this. What was the one that I got myself? And I remember the very first thing I ever bought was the Lick It Up 45. I remember I had that, and I had All Hell's Breaking Loose on the other side, I think, or that, or Not for the Innocent. One of those two, I don't remember which one it is, but I bought the 45. And because of that 45, I remember asking my sister to take me to the local mall that we lived by, and I bought Lick It Up. That was my first actual album that I had bought with my own money. I remember I saved up my allowance money, and I went and I bought that, and that was the first records I got. And then, just like you guys, the ball rolled from there, and then started collecting everything else that you can get your hands on. So it's interesting. I know that we talked about this already before on prior episodes, but I wanted to have like a nice starting question for this, and we'll take it from here. Now, let's expand on that a little bit now. What was your first, or what was the biggest, what KISS concert had the biggest impact on you that you went to? Let's start with Ken on this one. Which KISS concert that you attended had the biggest impact on you?
It's kind of hard. I mean, the first one is important, because it's the first time I guess I was most excited about. But it's kind of, that one is more of a blur to me. It's just I was just overwhelmed, and just, I don't know, the fandom of it, I guess, at the time. Seeing your heroes for the first time on stage, kind of thing, live. But I think the thing is I'm going to say Creatures of the Night, that tour, that had a big impact. I mean, especially after they trailed off a little bit with some of the albums there, from Dynasty through The Elder. And when they came back, and they came out like, man, we're gonna cut your throats, we're gonna, and they were just, the energy and the effort that they had. I mean, they sweat like crazy. They were just giving it all, and they wanted it. They wanted their, take their seat back at the top of the, rock. You could see it. You could just really see it, and man, I just got into that. And I had, just up front for the first show that I saw on that, and boy, it was a big impact, and I really got into it, man. It was awesome.
Great memory. What about you, Daniel?
Well, I'm just curious, Ken. What did you think about Vinnie at that show? What was your impression?
It's interesting, he kind of, I loved Ace, but he kind of won over the crowd, I think, with his shredding ability, his playing. Even though he wasn't playing the Ace solos, note for note or anything like that, he didn't do that.
No.
But I had respect, for his abilities. And the band just sounded tight and ripped through, the songs with him and Eric Carr, at the time.
Yeah.
They blew us away. It was pretty darn good.
Yeah, my first era Kiss was of course Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr, and then later on Eric Singer replaced Carr, and I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't get to see any of those eras, because that was really when my hysteria was at its height. But I do remember going to the reunion shows and just being blown away by the interest that the band generated. Because I went through my teens, being the only KISS fan around. I'm not sure if you have similar experience, but I was I was kind of ridiculed. Every other guy liked Metallica, and a little bit later on it was Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, and my only focus was KISS during those years. And I was the only one, but I didn't take the easy way out and started to listen to other bands. I kept loyal to KISS, but then they changed the lineup, and I wasn't really happy that they gave Eric and Bruce the boot, but at least it was still KISS, and I went to the shows and I was blown away. Everywhere you looked. I was at Stockholm Stadium 2 nights in a row. I think there were like 35,000 each night. Faces painted, everyone singing, and I was blown away by that. Then I missed Eric Singer's drumming, for instance, but the whole vibe was something that I've never felt at any other concerts ever. It was extremely. They were the hottest ticket in the world by that point. So it was so cool that this band that no one cared about a year back, suddenly everyone likes it. It was sort of just that feeling was great. But then I remember going up to people and let's sing Parasite. And they didn't know the songs. They had no clue. So I guess it was, they were casual fans.
Yeah, casual, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. because for me, you know, I missed a few concerts similarly to like Daniel, which I regret missing. You know, there was a time I was able to go to see the Asylum tour, but I couldn't go because of a prior commitment, so I missed going to that. You know, and those are really like a stab in the heart when you can not able to go to something like that. But I did get to see the reunion tour. I did mention that. But that's not the one that had the biggest impact on me. The one that did have the biggest impact on me was the Psycho Circus tour. And I'll tell you why. Because I had gone with my bandmates to the reunion tour. And we had a good time and it was awesome. But on the Psycho Circus tour, I ended up taking my older sister who introduced me to KISS. Mm-hmm. And I have 3 sisters. So my older sister and then there's 2 younger ones. Now the one not the youngest one, but the one older than her, I took her as well to go see KISS. Now she wasn't really a big KISS fan at all. She knew like a handful of KISS songs maybe. Mm-hmm. But taking them and having them sit on either side of me when we went to see and when KISS came on, this was something that'll live in my mind for the rest of my life, because seeing my sister, who had loved them since they were like formed pretty much, okay, and seeing her just singing every single song and jumping up and down and just being so loud, my ear almost went completely deaf from her screaming the whole night. And then seeing my younger sister, who didn't know half the set list but loved every single moment of it. Her eyes were just glued to that stage. Like when she saw Gene go up and do the blood thing and everything, she was like in complete awe watching it. You know, like she had never seen anything like that. She went to like, you know, bands. I don't know if you know any of these bands, Daniel. Like there was a band here called The Grapes of Wrath in Canada here, and they were like just like a regular alt rock band. And she went to like concerts like that, so it was nothing like a KISS show, right? So for her to go see a band like this, it was like a complete shock. And I'm telling you, I'd watched the show, but I have to admit, half the show, I just enjoyed watching them and their reactions of seeing this concert, and they really enjoyed it. So that to me was really the biggest KISS concert, like the impactful KISS concert for me. So yeah, go on.
In short, I would just like to add, I think second on my list has to be the Gene Simmons show I went to this year, because it was like, you know, things went full circle sort of. I'm not really sure if, well, I guess I'll go and see this final tour as well. But for me, that was like closure, you know, seeing Gene one final time, and I really enjoyed the show, you know, with that backing, the band he had and everything. It sounded great. And it was quite a while since KISS sounded great to me, but that show really sounded awesome, and I had a great time. So
great. So a couple more questions we'll do, and then I think we'll wrap it up. But I have another one that I'm interested in. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's get a more accurate answer of this. What KISS event do you regret the most that you missed? What KISS event did you regret the most missing out on? So let's try Daniel first.
Well, I guess the biggest regret is that I'm too young, you know, missing out on those golden years. And Ken mentioning the Creatures of the Night tour, you know, I've always been in it for you know, the live shows and the music. I'm not that into, you know, I wouldn't regret missing the KISS coffin or some merchandise piece.
Yeah.
I don't really care. Well, it's fun and all, but that's not the main thing for me. To me, it's always been about the music and the performance. So when I think back, I would have liked to have seen more live shows from you know, the band in its heyday. Just think of being able to go into the Love Gun tour or the Creatures of the Night tour, or even the Animalizer or the Asylum tour that you missed out on there. Those would have been great. And the Revenge tour, never saw them. I was in England about 2 weeks after they played, you know, they played England in May, I think, of '92. Great shows with Lee on the Swings, you know. And I was like 2 weeks after that, I was in England. I was 14, 15, and I missed out on that one. That would really have been great seeing them back in '92. So I guess if I could change anything, I would have been in England 2 weeks earlier and been to that KISS show in London. That would have been great. But, that's
cool.
how things go. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. What about you, Ken?
It's kind of hard. I could say at some point late down the road, I might say the cruise because I haven't gotten to a cruise yet. But I don't know if there's maybe more. There's still a chance, I guess. But otherwise, I think about when my friend, when I lived in Colorado, that lived across the street, had shown me the first KISS album, and I totally blew it off. I think about that had I really paid attention and listened to that, and maybe even saw the Paul Lynde special even, but paid attention, I probably would have seen KISS in '77, summer of '77, at the Cow Palace here when they played on the day that Elvis died, that concert. Yeah. That would have been probably my first show, not my worst, but my first. It probably would have been very cool. I just can only imagine what that would have been like, and kind of it bugs me when I think about how did I blow that off. But it was just that image on the first album cover. I didn't know what to make of it. Again, I said they were clowns. I said these guys are clowns. But had I seen the full costume, I wouldn't have thought that like, whoa. I would say, what's going on here? And I would have thought more dangerous. But I thought they were clowns. They didn't seem dangerous at all by that first album cover to me. Not at all. So maybe that's why. I don't know. But anyway, I think that's it. That's the thing, is had I not blown that off, I would have gotten into them earlier,
Yeah. Interesting. Now for me, I know that I mentioned the whole Asylum tour thing, but that's not really my biggest regret. My biggest regret is not going to see the residency in Las Vegas. Now, I'll tell you why because my younger sister, the one I took to go to the Psycho Circus tour, her husband is an IT specialist kind of guy, and he does a lot of business trips into America and frequents into Las Vegas quite often. And he's told me numerous times, Mark, buddy, if you ever want to go to Las Vegas, let me know. I get, because he has a hotel that he always goes to that the company takes him to, and blah, 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 blah. And when the residency happened, he told me, he came right up to me, he goes, hey, listen, if you want to go, let me know, and I can hook it up and we can go down there. And I think that I didn't end up going because I think during that time something happened within our family. I don't know if it was some kind of medical thing that might have happened, but something prevented me from going. I'm trying really hard to remember what it was. It probably might have been my leg. I know we also heard that story about how I broke my leg that time and I had to go in the hospital for months. And maybe it was still too early for me to go and fly and to do those kinds of things because I was still using a cane and stuff like that for months and months after I got out of the hospital. So I'm thinking it might have been that, or I know it was something to do of that nature that prevented me from going, because every time I think about that, when I see my, KISS Rocks Vegas, album and DVD and stuff like that, I'm always like, shit, man, I could have been there to see one of the shows and I didn't end up going. And my brother-in-law always keeps saying, you fucked up, man. You could have went. I could have took you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but, it's better not to dwell on those kind of regrets, I think. It happened, we missed it, but at least I have a document of it that I can always refer to and watch at any time. But that is definitely my biggest regret. So 2 more, and then we'll wrap it up. But I'm curious about this one. This is a question that I think me and Daniel might have even talked about offline, and we didn't go into it, but we kind of mentioned this kind of a question is, when KISS is done their end of the road tour, how will you continue your KISS fandom? You know, will there be another band once they're done that might take over their position in your, music listening, realm? Will KISS be replaced when they're done, or will you just continue your fandom in some different way? What do we think there, Ken?
It'll be taken over by KISS 2.0. I don't know. No, I seriously, I don't see anything taking over. Forget. I'm a lifelong KISS fan. I never jumped ship. And after it's over, if they don't tour anymore, I'm still going to listen to the music, watch the, DVDs, the live concerts, and I'm sure I'll be purchasing, the new product that they may, hopefully release that is, in the form of music or video or box sets, whatever it may be. Nothing's gonna, replace it. It's always gonna have its spot. And then there's the other bands that kind of fall below KISS that I love. Rush and down the line. Rush is no longer doing anything either, but doesn't mean I'm going to stop enjoying the music and new things that they release. Nothing. There's new bands that come out that there's a young band that I like that's been out a few years now, 2 albums, and I just love them to death. I just think it's so different and cool. It has me excited. But it's nothing like KISS. KISS is still going to have it.
Who are they?
Main side. Well, it's the Lemon Twigs. There's 2 brothers, and it's progressive pop. And man, those guys are so talented. It's not hard rock. It's more rock, pop rock. It's just different. I really enjoy it. But so. Yeah, again, KISS is it's always going to be there. They'll stop, but I'll still continue to be the fan.
Very good. What about you there, Daniel?
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do at the end of this tour that's coming up, because I don't think they will end everything. Like they will come up with something to keep the brand alive. And it'll be interesting to see what it is. We've been talking about KISS 2.0, and there's other stuff being talked about. I'm sure they will think of something that will make KISS feel, current in some way. So I'm kind of excited to see what will happen by the end of the tour. But other than that, I've tried to replace KISS a few times, at times when nobody else cared about KISS. It wasn't that fun to be a KISS fan. So I strayed somewhat towards, remember I had a brief Judas Priest period during the Ripper Owens era. Yeah. I liked those albums a lot, but that passed, and then I had a Stone Temple Pilots period, and even a Frank Sinatra period. So I had a few periods, but I always came back to KISS. And I remember my friends telling me when I talked about Judas Priest how much I liked them. I remember one friend called Henrik, is a Slayer fan, and he said, "Well, I know, Daniel, you will go back to KISS." I said, "Never. I'm past that. I will never go back to KISS. Furious later and see what happened. Yeah, I'm back." But in terms of something replacing the importance of KISS in my life, that's not going to happen. No way. To me, it's such a big part of my, childhood and teens and so many memories. You can never, pick a new band and have the same feeling. So I guess I will go on pretty much like now. Like Ken said, watch a few vids and listen to the music and maybe listen to some covers of KISS songs that will come up in the future. And so that's about it.
Well, I mean, now don't take this the wrong way, KISS Army, who's listening here. I didn't mean that as an insult that we should jump ship from KISS. It was just a way to get some sort of dialogue going in regards to it. But because for me, I'll be honest, when Rush packed up their tents and said that they were not going to do anything anymore, I mean, they're my favorite band in the world, and I took it hard. And for a little while, there was nothing going on with them. Like, there was nothing going on. And, it really tested my allegiance in the sense that, I always missed the idea of having something come up in the news feed about Rush, what's going on or something going on. And when it completely goes away, sometimes you can't help but start straying to somewhere else to look for something to kind of fill that void a bit, But then when Rush started releasing those box sets and stuff like that, then all was good because then there was something to look forward to again, right? Because another band I liked that did that, but luckily I wasn't a fan of them back in that period, was King Crimson. They had packed up in '74 and hadn't done nothing until like '81. Could you imagine if that was like KISS, having KISS wrap up and not do nothing and not hear a single word for like 7 years? Like, could you imagine? That's pretty hard to keep your fan allegiance in that sense, right? But I mean, I'm like you guys. I have my records, I have my DVDs and my videos. I mean, I at least watch Kissology 1 at least once a week, easily every week. I love that. It's my favorite Kissology, the first one. And my fan allegiance will stay with KISS. And like you guys, I hope that while they're not going to be touring anymore, I hope that they go on and do some other things that keep our interest and keep our, focus on them and not, completely lose interest in it. So good comments. I thought those were excellent.
One more thing is I think things like KISS Expos could fill that void to some extent, and that will grow and get bigger, because one important thing is that KISS Army feeling, that you're like the brotherhood. It's like rooting for the same team. Some people may root for Manchester United. We root for KISS, and no matter how bad they play, we still root for KISS. And meeting other people like that's something. I guess if you're religious, you go to church and you have that sense of brotherhood. It's much the same thing. So I'm hoping for more KISS Expos and keep the KISS Army alive and well.
Good point.
Great. Very well put. So for our last question, I'm kind of interested to hear your comments on this one now too. So which member of KISS do you think you will follow the most after this tour is done? So let's go over to Daniel.
Well, a hard question. It won't be Vinnie Vincent, I can tell you that. But having that said, he seems like a nut job. But I'd say that I think Ace Frehley is the one, keeping the rock and roll alive. Paul is pretty much done, to be honest. I'm hoping for a studio album from Paul. He can still bring it. I mentioned earlier the track he did for Ace Frehley's cover album. I love that one. So I'm hoping for something in the vein of that. But other than that, I think Ace is the rock and roll guy. Gene seems to. Well, I love the tour he did, but he's so. What's the word? He's into a lot of stuff. He's very eclectic, so to speak.
Diverse,
yeah. So and I'm into music, rock and roll, that kind of stuff. And Gene seems like he has so much going on that I'm sure Ace will still be a rock and roller, and I'm surprised the way he has been releasing records over the last few years. It's really impressive the way, even though I don't like all the songs, I love new music from KISS members, and he's the guy bringing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I will become an Ace fan and follow Ace more, because I'm not seeing a lot coming from the other guys. So I think I'll follow Ace.
Cool. Very cool. I didn't honestly expect that, to be quite honest with you, but very cool, Daniel. What about you, Ken?
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be Gene, probably, in the hopes that he does an album, a solo album with his Gene Simmons band, in the hopes that also that yeah.
That's Ace Frehley's band.
Yeah, now it's Ace Frehley's band. Now it's Ace Frehley's band. Formerly Gene Simmons' band. But anyway, that band and get into the studio and record some stuff. Either, unreleased stuff that he's demoed before or just new material that rocks. They're a rock band, really. I think they could really put out a nice, solid rock album with Gene singing. And Gene could still sing and play and sing, so not a problem there. So I think it would be pretty cool if they could, do that. What? And maybe tour on it. And do another, tour, because I didn't get to see him like Daniel did. But
why not Ace and Gene together doing an album with their band?
That
would be awesome.
Ace.
Have 6 Ace Frehley songs and 6 Gene Simmons songs, and have them writing stuff together, doing a rock and roll album. That would be something.
Gene Simmons Ace Frehley project. Or something like that. Yeah.
It's not impossible.
I'd be all for that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's actually a really, really good idea. That right away when you said that, it kind of made me sit up right away, thinking that not only is that a good idea, but that's the possibility of that is actually there, because they have written together, and from the reaction that I've read about the album in the press, the songs that they wrote together are the ones that people actually do enjoy. So maybe they have something there. You know what I mean? Maybe when they realize that their writing together could produce more fruit, as they say, like money-wise for Gene and stuff like that, then he might seriously consider it. Now, for me, I've always been a big Bruce Kulick fan. I've been, following him for quite a while, and I've always been hoping that he'll do another solo record. I like BK3 quite a bit, and a lot of his other stuff that he's done as well. And anytime he's been involved in a project, whether it's the Eric Singer project or Union or something like that, I always thought that his material was pretty strong with his involvement. His guitar playing is always fantastic. I've always thought of him as a great player. So for me, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that maybe he'll go back to doing some of his own stuff. But I mean, Grand Funk is a difficult band for him to probably give up playing. It's a solid touring act. It's a solid, steady paycheck. And you know how that is. Nowadays, the way the music business is, to have a steady paycheck is pretty rare these days, right? So I think that, as long as he can maybe keep that secure, I'm hoping that he might give us some other, solo material as well. But I have to admit, though, just now, you guys saying this Ace Gene thing, I'm going to secretly be pulling for that now, to happen, because I think it's a great idea. And if anything, you'll have half of KISS still technically alive in the form. What's the difference? Paul and Gene, and then you have Gene and Ace now, right? So, some people might argue that there's a big difference, but still, I mean, technically you have 2 people from KISS who could be out there and making music. So I think it's a great idea. And what a great way to end our segment on such a fantastic idea. So thank you guys very much for having this brilliant conversations today with this. I think this is went really well. I think Julian will be pleased. And I hope everybody out there who's been watching will enjoy our little conversation that we had here. And don't forget to put in your comments. Tell us that we're right or wrong, or give us your memories of stuff that you've done throughout your KISS fandom. Yeah. And, we'll I'm sure we'll be responding to it one way or another. And on behalf of myself, Marcus Almighty, on behalf of Daniel, Mr. Ruiz, and 69th Blizzard Ken, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check us out on the board and all the places that you normally see podcasts, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Great job.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final, there are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.